Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I know that waking up yesterday or waking up this morning, and as always, waking up to challenging news seems to be almost the norm. I know that many of us feel very connected to Kenton Shul and to our Shul. You know, I was in this building for most of yesterday, some of the time on my own. And there was at one point a bang that was probably on the main road, just a car tire or something. And I was a little bit on edge, maybe a little bit more than a little bit on edge. We are living through very challenging times. And those of you who heard Rabbi Black speak so beautifully yesterday on so many different news channels, that the main message that he was sharing is that we will continue. We are here this morning. We will come together this week to celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut. We will come together this week to remember on Yom HaZikaron. We will keep coming together because that's what we do as a people, and they will not stop us. But that doesn't mean that we don't all feel on edge, upset, nervous. But there's a comfort in coming together. There's a comfort in all being here. And that's what we'll continue to do, to be here for each other. I got a great WhatsApp message this week. Great because it really challenged me. So much so that I don't often bring what's discussed here to other forums to discuss. But I didn't have it printed out, so I didn't read it out. But I shared the message with our Friday night meal. And as many of you will know, we had Rabbi Andrew Shaw here over this past Shabbat, specifically in the lead up to Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, as part of what our community's talking about and remembering and being very proud Zionists. And I shared with him the body of the message, even if though it wasn't in the words. I shared it with the table, and we had a really interesting discussion. And all of you who will know my wonderful husband, Chanan, doesn't normally hold back, but he sat there and he listened to everyone's thoughts on it, and then only at the end he goes, right, now I'll tell you what the answer is, as he likes to do. But I'm going to read out the message to you, and I want to hear your thoughts, because it's actually a really challenging question. One of the two main themes that we've been speaking about since we've begun this group, one of the main themes has really been working on our journey of faith, talking about our relationship with God, with Hashem. And the other one has been talking about how proud we are to be part of this incredible Jewish people, how proud we are to be part of Am Yisrael, and how we love everyone in our people. And here goes the challenge to all of you. Hi, Jacqueline. I don't usually write to you, Ari, your Emunah sessions, which are great, by the way. But you said something last week that I've been really thinking about, wondering about, and struggling with. It echoed what Rabbi Jacqueline said in his, for me, best ever sermon that really made an impression on me. I still remember one Rosh Hashanah at Emmanuel, how we Jews must be there for each other, support each other, and really actually love each other. I absolutely do believe that and subscribe to that. I do sincerely love all my fellow Jews here in Bushi, Israel, and beyond. It seems obvious to me. But these days, I really struggle when I read the news. I see the latest stupid, detrimental pronouncements of Ed Miliband, which I think are damaging my country. I see Zach Polanski's Green Party leader doing the same, but on steroids, saying Israel is an apartheid state committing genocide. I see Miriam Margolis saying Hitler has won by changing Jewish people from being compassionate and caring into this vicious, genocidal nationalist nation. Not even mentioning Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Bernie Madoff, and others, who are obviously objectively bad guys. These people are all Jews. How can I love these people? How can I prevent myself swearing and having palpitations when I see their faces? I know politics is subjective. They might be right, I might be wrong. So I'm asking for guidance and advice on how I can tiptoe through the news stories without having a heart attack because some of my fellow Jews are so against everything I believe in. I don't care if Ed Miliband eats a bacon sandwich in front of the cameras and has no shame about it. But when these people denounce Israel, they are giving our enemies a stick to beat us with. That is their right. But how should I deal with it? He says this probably has got nothing to do with faith, really, and you probably don't have an answer. I'm just offloading here. I think it does have a lot to do with faith, and I think it does have a lot to do with what we've been discussing in our group. I'd love to hear from you. I guess the question underlying this is there a limit to our love? Are there some people that are just outside our camp? Interestingly enough, the week that we were talking about this past Shabbat, we were talking about in Tazria Metzara, we talk about if someone has tzara'at. Now, sometimes people translate tzara'at as leprosy, but it's not modern day leprosy. It's a skin condition caused by talking badly about other Jews, ironically. And the consequence of that is that you have to go outside of the camp. The idea of being outside of the camp is a real concept. The person is put outside of the camp. They have to stay there for a certain amount of days. Then they're sprinkled by the ashes of the red heifer. It's a whole purification process. And then eventually they're brought back into the camp. But we do have this idea of someone being outside of the camp. What do we think? Is our love limited?
Speaks a lot about passion and doing separation and behavior from the passion. The divine spark and compassion is trying to find that even when it makes you think very strongly against anything, probably anything, religious anything that you stand for that's moral, righteous, trying to find that within
Okay, so we can, and compassion is a form of love. So we can look at the things they're doing are wrong, but we can have compassion for them as a person, right? We can still love them and we can help them.
Yeah, like it's not separating them out. You don't want to live in a place where you can't feel like you loving someone is almost staying around to hear why you find truth. Research.
Beautiful. Thank you. Really beautiful. Nicole, did you want to? Yeah.
I was going to say something similar. I think the premise that they I can understand why people say that, but I was thinking there's not a lot of mind to that because they'll be just anyway. I think it is about thinking about what is it that motivates them. And I do think that the motivations are not necessarily based up. I think sometimes they still do hold Jewish values. It's just the way it's like. I do with people feel that they don't maybe need to. Israel is doing what they need. And sometimes I find it difficult to see so much destruction. It feels like they know really because the one person is talking to this bring up in that way. And maybe I'll find to see it. Emerging love is not the solution. And I find that because they still have to protect us. If there is a job still to be done of protecting us from people that want to hurt us. But I think it's very difficult when you have the discussion recently. What became very clear is that there isn't an answer, because we can't change people that hate us. They can't change themselves. We can't change the Jews. We can't make people express the way they feel about what's going on differently. We just, as this lady said, have to feel kind of compassion for each other, that we're so lost in the means of trying to find a solution. Sometimes we express it in a way that feels challenging. And I think, you know, I have a very lengthy child. Sometimes how I talk about Israel very challenging. I find how he talks about it.
Amazing. So I think there's a few really important points there. One of them that I want to pick up is, I think that sometimes there is like a grain of truth, even for us in our view, that we can see in someone who has opposite views or very different views to us. Like there is something that we're not so comfortable. You know, this war has been going on for so long. I think all of us are struggling with that. Even if we are complete, 100% Zionists, there's still, it's never comfortable to watch people being killed. And some of those people are innocent people. Like we've all got this struggle. So there's an idea, if you think of the letters in the word emet. So emet is an aleph, a mem, and a taf. And all of those letters kind of sit very firmly. They've got their feet on the ground. Sheker, on the other hand, a shin is like this, a kuf is like this, and a resh. There's nothing like flat and steady about the words of sheker, which means falsehood. So emet, which is truth, stands. And we say emet has feet, has raglaim. If you look at the next time you're looking in a siddur and a chumash, look at the letters, that they really sit on, they stand firmly. The truth has feet. Falsehood has nothing to stand on. If it was complete falsehood, if there was no grain of truth, then it's like a puff of smoke. But there is something that is still kind of, we can hear the other person's point of view. And I think also what's really important is if we are going to say things like Zach Polanski is out of the camp, or even Miriam Margulis is out of the camp, or Ed Miliband is out of the camp, where are we going to draw that line? Because as you said, family members are really challenged by Israel. We've got community members. We heard when we had a discussion here, there are community members who find what's going on really challenging. And to be honest, there's a part of all of us that might find what's going on in Israel, in the world. It's really challenging. So this is like this very, very careful line we're going to have to walk, this tightrope almost we're going to have to walk of, are we going to say that certain people are out of the camp, certain people are in the camp? Saf.
I just wanted to share the WhatsApp that I got on Friday from another Golani soldier. Lots of ex-soldiers are very sadly taking their own lives. Gion's best buddy did exactly that on Erev Pesach. He was the eldest of 7 brothers from Jerusalem family, and left behind a wife and 3 kids. He went into his car and shot himself in the head. Nobody knew he was struggling. It's real and it's a growing problem. And when we talk about Emunah, that soldier must have had incredible faith in everything that he did, coming from a religious family. And this isn't something that we read in the papers. This isn't something that most people know. But it's a big struggle, especially for people very religious and have deep, deep feelings for what they're having to do on behalf of us and the country, and what they see as the future for their family and kids. And I found that really hard to get that message on Shabbat.
That's cool. So I just want to acknowledge Sassa's just shared something really difficult with us. So everyone, please just check in with yourself. And, you know, to talk about someone taking their life is something that different people struggle with, different mental health issues. And I just think everyone just needs to really like make sure you're okay, because that's a really shocking thing to have to hear. I think what it makes me think of is Golda Meir famously saying that we can forgive you for killing our children, but we can't forgive you for making our children kill your children. And we know that what our soldiers are having to do, and I think especially coming towards Yom HaZikaron now, this is not the Jewish way. This is not the way that we as Jewish people are. We don't look to kill. It's not, you know, one of the three characteristics the Gemara tells us of Jewish people is that we are Rachmanim, we are compassionate, and Baishanim, we are bashful, and Gomle Chasadim, that we do kindness. None of those are what these soldiers are being asked to do, forced to do, having to do. It's really very, very difficult.
There's been a purposeful conflation between what both sides are saying to the point to create this aspect that you are talking Palestine. I don't know any Jewish people who don't care about that. I think the whole point is everyone cares about suffering, being misled. And people who are very anti-Israel is the idea that Israel was suffering. And people who are pro-Israel don't seem to be saying there's no suffering, everyone's happy. They're simply saying they're not the cause of all the suffering. And this is kind of the point of the people in your file there. You both sound like you care to see about stopping suffering. And that's the meaning thing. People are dying for the idea that they don't care about suffering. They're fighting to stop suffering. They're fighting to try to reduce suffering into the world. It's being conflated as though they're doing it for enjoyment. That's all conversion about what does it mean? Because I don't know anything for suffering. Because there is a death. There is absolutely suffering. Yeah. Suffering and how to reduce suffering and the truth. You're not being purposely moved around. People won't hear one.
And I think that's one of the greatest tragedies is that we're not having conversations. So, go on, David, and then
I think the question is not only talking about Israel, it's talking about gender. So you see something like real back, and you think this guy seems to know the answer, he seems to want to take government policy. And I think, you know, if we had a brother, a lot of people would not really, and that's just because people like Jeffrey Epstein was a Jewish guy. They imagine they have no qualms about being people. And they don't find compassion for them. I think what we said before, maybe they're somewhere buried somewhere, he is stuff. Still out.
yeah. So I wanna. Sorry, Sally, go on.
Sorry, I'm just talking about personalities. So Zach Lansky was not born Zach Lansky. He had a completely not Jewish name. For some reason, he decided to take his ancestral Jewish names. I don't know what he was born as, but he wasn't born Zach Lansky. Miriam Margolis, who I have seen no time for at all, pitched up in our Shul back in Manchester one year. It was coming up from the email and said, she's sitting at the back. So they must have something in. And the other thing is it's not so much about, we can't control what they do and how they act, but we can control the way that we respond to them. Yeah. The only thing we can control is policy. So the way that we deal with them. But I do agree to something like that, students seems to be a self-using really not things.
Yeah, so I think that is really the essence of the question, is how do we feel? Because you're right, there's nothing we can do in terms of, well, listen, if any of them showed up here now, that's a really good question. What would we do? Would we say, please come inside and listen, right? Please listen. That would be great. If they came to your home and they knocked on the door and they said, we don't have anywhere to eat for Friday night dinner, would you invite them into your home? Would you say, come and sit round our Shabbat table? I think so, because that's called love, right? That's called love. Even though not everyone will, maybe, I don't know. I'm not talking about the criminals, 1 second, let's just be clear, because I know there's a few different names that we mentioned here. So I'm not talking about someone who's a criminal, but we'll get to that in a second. But that's what's really interesting, is how do we define love? And what does it mean to love someone? Can you strongly disagree with someone? Can you almost be repulsed by them or even hate someone and still carry this idea of compassion or love? It's really a really interesting challenge. I want to take us back to something that we spoke about on Pesach. Is there anything that you can think about during the Haggadah that kind of relates to how do we deal with someone who has really challenging views? Is there any bells ringing for anyone? Yeah, go on. So what do we do with the wicked son? He's at our Seder. He explained him, and then what do? Haket shin up. We knock out his teeth. Right? Now, if you're blunt his teeth, right? So there are consequences for actions, right? There are consequences for action. I'll tell you a very extreme example. I might make it a bit more parav because I'm on video. But when I was in seminary, one of the things we discussed was we spoke about the Neturei Karta. Yeah, so I know I'm not trying to keep bringing it back to Israel, but the Neturei Karta, whenever you see a pro, not the pro-Iranian people, but the pro-IRGC rallies, or going to Tehran, or anything pro-Palestinian, and you see these Hasidic people there, that is, by and large, we're talking about a very small sect that's called the Neturei Karta. My teachers told me that those are people who have taken themselves outside of what is acceptable Judaism. And if we were in the time of the temple, they would be very severe consequences for having those views, because you are actually endangering Jewish people's lives. Now, if we look at what actions the celebrities or the politicians are taking at the moment, are they actually endangering people's lives? It's possible to say yes. It's possible to say, as someone shared, that these actions would be taken anyway, and there's enough other people doing, kind of igniting the flames of hatred, etc. But these are really challenging questions. So when a Rasha comes into your house at Seder night and they are challenging everything and they are anti everything, the Haggadah clearly tells you there's action to be taken. Now, that doesn't mean that we're talking about nowadays, if someone sits at your Seder table and they say, I don't believe in anything, most probably that person comes under the category of she'eino yodea lishol, that there's someone who's just not had the same opportunities, the same education as we have. It could be that they've been brainwashed by social media, by regular media, etc. It doesn't matter, but it's very difficult to say that someone is kind of, purposely doing something evil. But the reason I bring it up as this idea of a Russia, if we talk about, Jeffrey Epstein, Bernie Madoff, etc., these are people who have objectively done terrible, terrible things. If we were in the time of the temple, there are very clear, read the Torah, there are very clear consequences for doing terrible things, right? There are punishments, even when we say that al-Chetz, on Yom Kippur, we talk about on the sins that require stoning and hanging and, all the different types of murder, death penalty. That's part of our religion, right? Whether you're comfortable with it or not, we don't live in a world where that's kind of part of, in this country anyway, that's not part of the way things are done. But at those times, that's what existed. If you did something wrong, there were consequences. Can you still love someone where there are consequences for the actions that they've done. The actions they have done have been so bad that they even require the death penalty. Is there still a place for love? Can we, as you said so beautifully, can we separate out the thing they did is evil? It requires a consequence, whatever that consequence is, but I can still love the person. Is there still something inside of the person that I can love? What do we think?
I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
I won't say nothing because in my head, I could talk to you now for an hour, at least, about what's been going on here, going back into history, and people who were Jews who became anti-Jews. There were Jews at the time of the Spanish Inquisition who converted to Catholicism and then prosecuted their own people. So we're not talking about stuff.
It doesn't have to be nowadays. Yeah.
It's just a repetition
Yeah.
in many ways. You talk about how do you love people? Yes, we just had Yom HaShoah. What about the couples in the camps who were Jews, who beat their fellow Jews, who helped with selections, helped doing all sorts of things? Can you love those people? They were trying to survive. But what was the cost? The cost was other Jews. How do you love those people? You go through history, and there's nothing new. I give a lecture on Henry VIII and his rabbis. One of the rabbis he consulted was Mark Raphael from Italy, who was chief rabbi of Rome. He converted to Catholicism. So, I mean, we and these people rail against Jews. There was a famous disputation in Spain where a Jew stood up to castigate Talmud, and it was Maimonides who fought back and won. But you can't win because it was decided that the Jew would never win anyway. But that's how it is. As I say, only another 59 minutes. And then you've got there's other things where there are psychological matters which have been discussed on learned papers, which I've been reading about the herd mentality, where we live in a herd inside a society. And we are the minority within that herd. And there are people, Margulies and all the others we've discussed, who are very, very uncomfortable being in this minority. They want to be with the majority. So they step out because they feel safer on the outside while we are on the inside. Maybe we're on the outside and they're on the inside. You can work to that yourself. So it's a psychological matter. And there's a third matter as well. There's a phenomenal documentary on BBC4 at the moment looking at freedom of speech. It's in two parts. And this person has been making this documentary over 7 years. She goes back to 2017 and shows what's going on in the universities, where people have taken language and now say that because we are white and we speak in a particular way, it is racist. And everything is racist because of the language that we speak because we are white. And this has been transferred into the universities so that free speech, for instance, Jews aren't allowed to speak on universities because we're racist, because mere fact we are Jewish is racist. And only the people who are against oppression are allowed to speak. And this is what we're fighting. And so here we are fighting a battle for literally our being. The difference, the huge difference we have today is the fact that we have a state of Israel. It's a huge difference. We've never had this. We haven't had, well over 2,000 years, we haven't had our own state. And now we have one in the modern world. And the world resents it. Why do they resent it? Because we have morals, And they can't bear it that we have morals. So they have to get rid of us because we are the conscience of the world. And why do we dislike people
who step outside from the fold, because we are a minority and we need every one of us to stand with the program. Let's call it the program. You know, we need anyone who cuts away the foundation, and because they say, and because I'm Jewish, and cuts away the foundation, is weakening the wall, and we're in real trouble because people listen to them because, oh, they're Jewish, that's what they're talking about. Why do we get embarrassed about Epstein and Madoff and all the others who commit crimes? Don't non-Jews commit crimes? Don't non-Jews murder? Of course they do. But why is it only the Jews who get the blame? But we are the social conscience of the world. We should know better. And yet we're no different from anybody else.
Yeah.
Another 45 minutes to go.
So I'm going to come back to you, Lawrence, in a second, because I'm going to come back to you in a second because I want to hear your thought on love, if there's love for these people. But I do want to, just on what you said there, it made me think of, you know, Prince Andrew. If he was just Andrew, okay, he messed up. Yeah, fine. Yeah, fine. Okay. When we are part of the chosen people, when we mess up, it has a bigger impact, exactly because of what you're saying. We are meant to be the moral conscience of the world, and if we do something wrong, then there is a greater light shone on us, like there is at the royal family. Like that's so important for us to know. That should be empowering for us to know that we are part of the Am HaNivchar. We are part of the chosen nation, chosen because we chose to follow the moral code, because we chose to accept the Torah, right? It was offered to the other nations and they did not choose it. But that's really important for us to know. But I want to ask you, is there room for love for the people that whether it's the capos, whether it's the priest chief rabbi who converted, do you have space to be able to love those people? Can you still love them as part of the Jewish people?
The difference between love and hate is very thin.
Yeah.
I don't hate anyone. I'll be honest with you. I don't hate anybody. To me, there's only two types of people, good or bad. That's my thing. Could I love somebody who committed something? No.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't have that faith.
No, I don't know if it's even about faith, but I appreciate your honesty, because I think there's other people who probably feel the same. And I know you'll be honest with me.
David committed adultery and then kills his husband. We were built upon a foundation of people who committed, sin, to people who've done bad things. And it's not about being perfect, it's not about trying to be morally more upheld than the rest of the people. How do we deal with it? How do we react? How do we handle that in our people? Because we are just, we do wrong, we do audition, we're not perfect, and we don't go to deal with that. And consequently, it's how do we deal with that?
So I think what's really interesting, we spoke about like receiving the Torah. The first thing the Jewish people do after they receive the Torah is they mess up and they dance in front of the golden calf. Like, you're right, it's so much part of our story. But there is this idea that we are meant to be. We mess up all the time, but we are meant to be like Or Goyim. We are meant to be a light to the nation. We are heading towards a time of redemption. We've spoken about this often. We are heading towards a better time where it will be so obvious to all of us and to the world, this is the higher moral code. At the moment, it's so murky. I often think about this idea that, just before dawn breaks is the darkest time. We all know that the darkest point of night is just before you begin to see the light, right? And that's what we're living in now. I really feel that we're living in this really dark time. Anyone who heard Rabbi Shaw speak over Shabbat will hear that he has this incredible hope, which is part of our DNA as the Jewish people, this tikva, this hope that we must always hold on to. But we are nearly there. We're nearly at Geula. We're nearly at that point.
I think you posed the question, do you love people that harms? And I think there's a difference between love and compassion. I think you can still have compassion for how lost they must be, because yeah, we're not perfect. That's not of tomorrow is because we're not, I mean, we're stick next to people, aren't we? That's why we need it. We're not brilliant. Human nature and we balance. So it's a way of finding a way to overcome those urges to do things that are harmful to us. And if you do find that then they have to live with their consciences, which could be in quite a difficult place. So I think you have to feel compassion, or I feel you have to feel compassion for those and how lost they are and how difficult their internal life might be. If they still have that spark inside, then they will know they are not doing the right thing within themselves. They're not overcoming the Sahara within them.
Yeah.
And that's I think where you can find a place to feel compassion for them. I don't necessarily think you have to love them.
Right. So compassion and love. Well, let's think about that, Kathy.
It causes thinking the words I have
Yeah.
now, just thinking that. When all this is happening, all I keep thinking is leave me alone. Leave us alone.
Yeah, just leave us alone.
Everyone's got a problem, and you have to feel compassion for them because they're obviously, they've got internal turmoil. Anyone who comes out in self-hating Jews, why are they identifying with Jews at all? Why are they letting everyone know? One has to ask the question, why? You know, Zach Lansky and Miriam Marcos, all the rest of them. Everyone has to know they're Jewish. Why? They obviously have this inner term. And I think there's a difference between love and compassion. But I think it's a very, very fine line. And I'm just thinking, just use it. It was just there in my mind.
I think answering what you just said, everybody has to know, because for years and years and years, the press has always identified Jews by their religion when they have done something wrong. Nobody says, so-and-so did so-and-so, by the way, he's a Catholic, or he's a Christian, or he's a Muslim, only if he's a Jew, okay? That's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm totally with Lawrence in one respect, that I cannot hate people because hate is so destructive and hate destroys the good in us rather than do anything to affect these people. So while I don't like them, I can't hate them, and I have to see that, you know, they are in turmoil, there's something with them. But why they have to announce their Jewish state and then berate whatever's going on, I don't know. I think that is a very peculiar turn of fate. And nobody stands up and says, I am a Muslim or I am a Catholic and I hate all Catholics. It doesn't happen. You know, why do we do it? I don't know. But hate is not an emotion which gets anybody anywhere, and only love changes things.
Thank you. So hate eats us up.
Yeah,
love can make a difference.
You know, it's not productive. You can't do anything when you're absolutely hating something.
Thank you, Liz.
So one of the things I find very difficult is you mentioned that we are supposed to be a light unto the nation. I used to be so proud, and still am proud of the medical teams that, you know, shoot off to Haiti and places like that when there's been an earthquake, and they're there. So the first medical team on the ground setting up the field hospital. Fantastic. We hear nothing, and there's probably not even happening yet. We hear nothing of that anymore. All we hear is some negative stuff about the settlers and the, you know, Ben Gvir with his death penalty and all this stuff. And it makes me very, very sad that actually we're not these people that they are portraying us as.
I'll come to you. Go on, Steph.
I feel that I disagree with most of the views. I can't find compassion for people that just make me feel very, very angry. I think the only person that can feel compassion is a rabbi that's visiting these people in prison. And at that point, they acknowledge they're Jewish and want to change their life. So they're having a one-to-one with a mentor that makes them feel Jewish again. I don't think we have it in us to be compassionate to people that literally want to denigrate the Jewish race. And for us to say they deserve compassion, no, they don't deserve compassion, because they're spending their lives telling the whole world how bad we are. That they can have a change of feeling, which is what Rabbi Sachs' book was all about, Not in God's Name. That book opened a lot of doors for me. And I think when you're at your deathbed and you acknowledge God and all your sins are forgiven, that's the point where compassion is shown. Not for us. When we're seeing all these awful things that are happening, and we say, yes, there's a part of us that should feel sorry for them. No, we don't feel sorry for them. I certainly don't feel sorry for them. I feel very angry, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish, denigrating the Jewish population here, certainly in Israel, where ordinary people read Sheker, read lies, and take that as gospel. And Rabbi Shaw said the other day, anybody can post anything on a blog, knowing it's a lie, but knowing that millions of people are going to read it and believe it. So no, I don't have any time or space.
So Sas, I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah.
If they come on Friday night to your garden, anyone who wants to join us, Sas and Rocky are hosting the first Bushy Connect Friday night this Friday night. So if they show, for the advert, if one of these characters shows up at your home, would you throw them out?
I would ask them to come on another night and sit down with me.
You would talk to them.
I would talk to them.
Okay.
I wouldn't invite them to my
You wouldn't
Friday
invite
night.
them to your Friday night dinner. Okay.
No, because that would mean nothing to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rocky, are you in agreement? You're not sure. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I have worked with many people that I've tried to look for the good in everyone. It doesn't matter whether Jewish or not Jewish. And I always feel that there is good in everyone that I've ever worked with. We have someone in our family who's been very indoctrinated from the university that she goes to. And we always kept the door open and said to her when she sat there and had disagreements. I've always responded by sending a WhatsApp afterwards and saying it was very interesting what you were saying. I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying. Their house is always open for discussion, and we'll always love you, and we're always there for you, as Todd was saying before. It's important to keep the dialogue open.
Okay. So I'm just checking, because if Zach or Miriam want to come on Friday night, I'll send them to you, not to Sas. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, you worked in the prisons, like, Rocky really has dealt with some of the lowest people in our society, but you can still find love for them. I think that's really, really powerful.
So you call them lowest. I don't see
Yes, yeah.
No.
Or let's say the people who have done some of the worst things.
Circumstances that have just forced them into making it force them, but enable them to commit the crimes that they've committed.
Thank you.
Two things. First of all, I saw on Shabbat video, maybe that was second nature. When I saw it, she was raiding in Vietnam and just eat their meal and they got started getting verbal abuse from this person. And shouting at them that they were murderers and business killers, and she was saying, we all have. And I think for us, when people throw at us that your baby because you know the murderers and that's thrown out. It feels so uncomfortable as all of us. Before we all feel suffering, it feels so unfair that was thrown out. And then I went to lunch on Friday night dinner, and my father there, and we had some candles. It was never experienced this, and she kind of hates. But at the same time, can we feel anger without hate? Because I find it very difficult to not feel anger. And feeling, when I saw them having the same day with Owen and Jones, it makes me feel angry. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but can we fight back without the anger? Yes, we need compassion and we need to challenge people 100% agree with that. But do we also need to feel angry? And I just heard Kemi on LBC this morning. She said, if I wanted to be thrown at that church, she said there would be a national emergency. She said, why is there not a national emergency? And Nick Barley said, that is a question for people listening. But are Jewish people held in less regard than black people? That's not being taken seriously. Question everyone needs to ask ourselves. And I can't remember, but my point is, to be able to be angry well,
Yeah.
or depending on
Yeah. I think, I mean, you made me think of, David Baddiel's book, Jews Don't Count. Like it keeps coming back to that, doesn't it? And that was before October the 7th that he wrote that. But I think, and we've discussed before in terms of feelings towards Hashem, but like we have spoken about this idea of like, I think anger is an okay emotion. It obviously needs to be channeled in the right way. But the alternative of kind of just sitting here and just saying like, it's okay, it's fine. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think anyone will do anything if we just go like, oh, just turn the other cheek. It's not a Jewish concept of turning the other cheek. That is not Judaism, right? That's the other part of the Bible that is not part of ours, right?
Ian tells a story about turning the other cheek when something happened at school, some anti-Semitic remark was made, and he challenged it when he was at school. And the teacher said, well, why don't you just turn the other cheek? And he said, no, with no cheek there. We've done that.
So I do think that anger to do something, we all know if you keep anger bottled up inside, it's really destructive. But if the anger propels you to do something positive with it, and that's why when we talk about things being louder and prouder, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about finding a way to channel it, that actually we're going to be, and Rachel, you shared such a beautiful idea of like a Holocaust survivor and your mum and you standing and lighting Shabbat candles. Like they're not going to stop us. We're gonna be more committed to our Judaism, and we've seen that incredibly in this community, how and around the world, how people are becoming prouder and are doing more because of what they're trying to do to us. And that was Rabbi Black's message. Literally, you saw him in his talit and tefillin saying, "They're not going to stop us. We're gonna daven." He said he was going to go pray elsewhere, and his wife said, "No, you daven in the house. We'll bring the minion here. We're going to be prouder. That's what we're going to do."
Listening to what everyone is saying, very much the word hope. And I think hope is something that transcends all of us. Everyone is different, whether they agree with us or disagree with us. I've learned that in life, that you can't be accountable, you can't criticize other people because everyone is always different to you. You can have your people, but you must have hope that they will see the light, that they will see that there's a change. And you do that by setting the example, that we know for us, for each individual, we know what's right and wrong.
stick to that guides us. We can't do the things that the people who are harming us don't want to do that to them. And sometimes it's very difficult to take that view when you see what's happening and we just talk about it through that. But I don't think we should ever lose it. And I think that's something that keeps us together and keeps the community together, keeps the Jewish people together.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've just had Yom HaShoah, where they killed 6 million of us. Many of them my family, many of them your families. It's all our family. But you know that my great grandparents, that my great aunts and uncles, this is what they wanted. And yet those people went and they fought and they founded the state of Israel. And that's what we're going to be celebrating, commemorating and celebrating this week. Starting tonight is Yom HaZikaron, where we remember all the fallen. And included in those fallen, I've really been thinking about, is all the hostages that we prayed for that didn't come back alive. Those are part of Yom HaZikaron now. So if you remember, one of the hostages that our community twinned with was Chaim Perry. He's part of the list on Yom HaZikaron now. We all saw his face, the smiling grandfather. We so desperately wanted to be returned alive to his family. Thankfully, he was returned for burial. But these are all part of Yom HaZikaron. We're entering that time. And then we've got Yom HaAtzmaut, where we have hope. We have what to celebrate. There's so much that we need to be grateful for.
Yom HaZikaron is so close to Yom HaAtzmaut. That changed story. How found it?
Yeah, I'll tell you something interesting. This year we're actually doing something different than we've done before. Normally what we do is on Yom HaZikaron going into Yom HaAtzmaut, we do normally do a tekef, so we do a very moving, sad kind of ceremony, and then that goes straight into dancing. And we've actually separated it this year. So Shabbat was much more mindful, thoughtful. There will be, hopefully we're going to be sharing some social media posts, so hopefully you'll see those. Thinking about focusing on Yom HaZikaron. And then Yom HaAtzmaut, the party's going to be different because we felt that we do really need to be able to celebrate. But I think you're right, that switch, they do it in Israel, but that switch, almost like there's a gong and then you go from sadness to joy, is really hard. It is really hard. And yeah, it is really difficult.
But when I take you to that, I found the word just and I'm sure a lot of you know this is the first time and it's inevitable. And the meaning is be grateful, be free, be expressed, be described and work. And in one sense, I feel that, but sitting here, we are finding language to be able to describe something in words. But I'm also want to kind of, in a way, what you said, I'd like to say about treat the Hebrew letter and on legs, you know, that there's a ground that, you know, and that's the issue that the pattern has to go through that mushy bit in the middle for it to become a beautiful caterpillar, and that there's no timing, there's no egg time on that for that. But I don't know what I'm saying, but I just feel today I wanted to input something which I would never do.
Thank you.
She heard me, and because she heard me, I was able to speak.
And thank you for sharing that. I've shared before about that. It's one of my favorite stories about the caterpillar and the little boy that cuts the cocoon, and then the butterfly can't come out beautifully. There's something really beautiful. But I think that when we all came here this morning, and so many mornings, often we don't have words, but somehow sharing together we can find words. I'm going to end by sharing with you. I cheated. So as I said to you, we discussed this on Friday night, and there were some really interesting points, very similar to what's been shared here, some other points as well that we shared together. And then what I did was I wrote a shortened version into not just regular ChatGPT, on aish.com. So on the Aish website, which if you've not been on, I think is a fantastic resource, they have Aish AI, which works slightly differently in that it's using only their resources. So first of all, as you click on it, the screen goes, "Hi, I'm Rabbi Daniel Rowe." Now, some of you might know Rabbi Rowe. He's a very good family friend of ours. I'm like, "Oh, Rabbi Rowe, that's nice." I was going to say hi, but wait. Or at least my digital mind, powered by AI. After decades of teaching and leadership at Aish, I'm here to share deep, practical, and soulful Jewish wisdom. Whether you're wrestling with life's big questions, exploring Torah, or just curious, I'll help you find timeless answers that speak to you. So this is AI, but it's really Rabbi Rowe kind of going through AI. So let's see what he has to share. My question that I wrote, and I know this was very much condensed: do we love all Jews, even those who are anti-Israel or who do bad things? Very simplified way of a much more complex question. But let's see what he says. That is a profound question, thanks. And it deserves a direct answer. The short answer is, what do we think? Yes. We love all Jews. Full stop. Not conditionally, not with reservation. That's the foundation. But now let me dig deeper, because love here needs unpacking. When I talk about loving a fellow Jew, I'm talking about something quite specific in our tradition. It's not the same as approving of their choices or their politics. It's not about pretending their actions don't matter. Love in the Jewish sense is rooted in something deeper: recognition. Isn't that an interesting definition for love? I see you as part of my people, part of the fabric of the Jewish community. That recognition doesn't evaporate because someone holds views I find deeply wrong or because they've done something harmful. Rabbi Akiva teaches, and we're in the period of the Omer, which is Rabbi Akiva's time. This is when Rabbi Akiva's students died, all the way till Lag BaOmer. Thousands of students died because they did not have respect for each other. What was Rabbi Akiva's most important Jewish lesson for us? He teaches that love your neighbor as yourself is the great principle of Torah. And what's remarkable is that he says this not to exclude anyone, but as the foundation for everything else. The Talmud actually frames this quite powerfully. You can't truly love God without loving others. That's why this question is so relevant to faith, because what we're talking about here is having a relationship with Hashem. You cannot have a relationship with Hashem if you don't have a relationship with others. They're two sides of the same coin. Now, here's where it gets challenging. Loving someone doesn't mean enabling them. If a Jew is working against Israel's survival or pursuing goals that cause real harm, love means I care about their soul, their connection to their Judaism, even as I oppose their actions with everything I have. I remember speaking about this in the context of how we're fractured as a people. When we lose that underlying love, when we start seeing other Jews as enemies rather than family members who've gone astray, that's when sinat chinam, baseless hatred takes root. And that's what historically destroys us from within. This question really becomes, can you oppose someone's actions fiercely while still holding love for who they are as a Jew? I believe the answer has to be yes. Otherwise, we're lost. So I think that's really powerful. I know I try not to go to ChatGPT, but this, as we said, this is Rabbi Rowe speaking to us through AI. When we say that we can love someone, it does not mean that we don't need to do everything that we can to oppose the damage that they're doing, that we don't need to do everything that we can to oppose the negativity, that we don't call out what they've done that's wrong 100%. Sometimes that means sending that person to prison. Sometimes that means reporting that person to the authorities. Sometimes that means standing up and strongly debating someone. Sometimes that even means throwing someone out of a shul or out of our home for a Friday night dinner. Those are all actions that sometimes need to be taken. But if we've got this idea of underneath we can still love everyone, the reason this is so important is because as soon as we start saying, here's where we draw the line, where do you draw the line? Who is it anyone who has any views that are, because we're talking about Israel, that criticize Israel, they're beyond the pale? Anyone who ever does anything wrong, they're beyond the pale? Of course not. Of course not. But of course we have to live in a society. Part of our moral obligation is to live in a society where we call out wrong, where we take action when required. That is part of our society. So if we come back to the lessons of history, can we love the capo? Can we love the people in the Spanish Inquisition who reported Jewish people and made them lose their lives? Is there space for love, for, if we want to call it, for compassion, if we want to call it, if we want to talk about love in terms of recognition? Can we recognize them as Jewish people? And then isn't it interesting, if we go back to the point that so many of you shared, how they are craving that recognition, whether it's showing up in your shul on Yom Kippur, whether it's every time that they make, maybe the reason that every time they speak on the news, they have to start by saying, I'm a Jew, is because their soul is burning, like it does inside all of us. Their soul is burning bright. They are proud of the fact they are Jewish, and their values are complicated. Maybe it's, as you said, the fact that none of us want suffering, and this is their way of thinking that what they're doing is right, or trying to protect themselves, or doing terrible things. That's okay. But this interesting idea of we can still recognize them as part of our people, even if we think in the times of the temple, they might require to be put to death. They might require the death sentence, but we can still say that they're part of our people. Because as soon as we start going down the road of saying that they're not part of our camp, and they're not part of our camp, and they're not part of our camp, that's a very slippery road. And we're a very small people, and we're being persecuted, and we can't afford to lose all the liberal Jews, all the liberal-minded Jews, all the Jews who don't support Zionism, any of these categories. We can't afford to lose them.
I think that it's really powerful what you're saying, that it's kind of into my parents, then for the growth of their life, that if you don't identify them as part of us, then you don't recognize that you could actually, it could be that you could end up like that, and you have to guard against that. And that's why we follow, we stick with our Judaism and our values that Judaism brings us. Because if we don't, we might end up like them. And so we have to recognize that they're part of us, because we could do that.
And I want to thank you, Nicole, and I want to come back to something that I think is so powerful to think about for a moment, which I shared. I'm sorry, I know we've run over, but I shared with the group when I took a group of mainly non-Jewish students to Auschwitz. One of the things that I shared with them, one of the problems with humanity is as soon as you start othering people and saying they're not. And we walked, when we were in Auschwitz that first time, and we walked past a massive group of Israelis who had come to Auschwitz, probably as part of their army training. As soon as humanity says they're not like us, right? The white people, the Jewish people, whichever people you want to say aren't part of us, that's where we're losing humanity. That's the problem, that people have dehumanized other people. We are people. We are just people. And as soon as we can try to see the humanity in everyone, and if people could see us as humans, with all our faults, doing things right, doing things wrong, just like we can look at other people, that would bring the ultimate peace into this world. That humans could recognize humans in the same way that we need to, as Jewish people, we need to be able to recognize all of the Jewish people, whether we agree with them or not, whether they've done terrible things or not. They are still part of ours, because as soon as we start othering, as soon as we start drawing those lines, where are we going to end?
I just say the panorama for the program tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.
For it or against it? I don't know.
It's the BBC, you never know. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Lot to think about. Please do come along on Wednesday night to celebrate with us, our wonderful country.